What do you think is ultimately going to be the biggest issue for these big companies, the European approach or the US approach as it evolves?
Well, I think that the US approach is the bigger risk here, which is that the sentiment begins to turn and the regulatory stuff about, going after these big companies. I mean, these parallels have already been drawn, as you know, like in the media, about the fact that data is the new oil, and some of the big sort of companies like Standard Oil were broken down. We need to do something with these companies. So I think that we aren't there as yet. I mean, if because I think that if you speak to people back in California and stuff, or the people in government there, I don't think that they're there as yet, which is to sort of say that we need to break these down. But sentiment is beginning to turn. And I think that the other thing we haven't spoken about is that it's quite remarkable that we find that in China, there's much less talk about any of this, even though if you look at the top 10 companies in the world today, 2 of them are from China now, in terms of the largest in the world. So I think that it's important to keep an eye out there, that how are they sort of dealing with that. I think, but there the attitude is more that these companies are such big employment creators at a time when the economy is sort of transitioning from an old to a new economy, that we haven't seen much conversation there. But that's something also there. We've seen some chatter, with sort of, there was a bit of a sort of little panic a couple of months ago when one of the party officials described all this online gaming as electronic heroin out there. So I think it's that this global sentiment is turning, but I'm not sort of looking for anything dramatic to happen just now. And as typically happens, it's after we have some crisis, that's when the regulatory risk goes up the most. Currently, it's more chatter.
China has immense control over some of their social media platforms, and they certainly don't allow the likes of Facebook to come into the country the way Facebook would like to be into the country. Are we going to see a model based on China here in the United States? Is that where this is going, where we ban the use of Winnie the Pooh on a platform because of political sensitivities towards a cartoon?
No, I don't think so. I mean, in terms of, I don't think that we are anywhere close to that. But I think that, as I said, that it's important to keep in mind, because we were speaking about my book earlier, and I remember, they're writing a chapter on the good and bad billionaires as a sign of income inequality, and sort of saying that the billionaires coming out of the tech industry should be classified in the good billionaires because they are aspirational, they're seen to be non-hereditary, and sort of a positive consumer effect coming from them. For me, it's like watching that sentiment, that when do you begin to classify them as bad billionaires? But I don't think we are there as yet. The sentiment is still largely positive, although it's building and a risk worth keeping in mind.